Hello and welcome to Beginning Latin 4. I'm going to present to you the materials that will be used this year, and then we'll get a little bit of a preview of Chapter 1 and discuss a few of the fundamentals of Latin, which we will be learning this year to help you on your journey, on your road to becoming a Latin scholar. So the first book is Latin for Children. This is Primer B. In the series Latin for Children, there are 3 levels, and Primer A is the first level. So we're skipping to Primer B now. You've either covered the information in Primer A, or you have some of an understanding of Latin, and your age makes it a best fit for you to be in Primer B. There is also an accompanying history reader, which is a lot of fun. So this history reader is filled with 32 different stories about medieval history in Latin. And this is going to be at your level because the vocabulary and the Latin grammar are going to be a really good match for the Primer B Latin for Children textbook. The Latin stories are parallel with the Veritas history curriculum and integrated with the grammar and the vocab, as I said, from your reader. So from your textbook, while this reader is key to Latin for Children Primer B, it's a really good supplementary text too for history, in addition to what you're learning in Latin grammar. So let's do this. We're going to start with the very first page, Latin for Children. And as you can see, the week is split up into 5 days. So when I send you out homework, you will always receive from me homework sometime shortly after the class has ended. I will send you the homework so that it's fresh in your memory. There will be day 1, 2, 3, 4, and day 5. Day 1 is the day you come to class. So theoretically, you don't have to do any homework that day. You have taken in the information for the entire week. Of course, I'm available by email anytime you need to ask a question about that course that we've done together, that Zoom class. Day 2 is going to be the second day, the day after you do your Zoom recording or your Zoom live class. Today's is a recording. You're going to review the material that we talked about. Okay, so there's always a Latin maxim, a famous saying by Cicero or a famous orator from Roman days. There's going to be new vocabulary and old vocabulary. And you're going to want to make flashcards for your vocabulary every week. Okay, so when you're learning a language, you're going to see the word, you're going to say it aloud, hear it said, and you're going to write that word. That's the best way for your porous mind to absorb what you're learning, by seeing it, saying it, writing it, hearing it. That's the best way to do that. So I recommend that you do not buy the flashcard sets that are available from publishers. I recommend that you write out your own and you buy an index box, and you can use lined index cards or plain white index cards. On one side, you're going to write the Latin word, and on the other side, you're going to write the English word. So then you're making a mastered pile when you master the word, and a not yet mastered pile when you haven't yet mastered it. That way, you know, when you're doing your daily memorization homework, you don't need to look at the mastered pile. You're fine, right, with that. Then there will be some translation that you will see in just about every chapter. Day 3, you're going to go back again. You're going to go back to that vocabulary, that brand new vocabulary, and study it. Make sure that you know the review vocabulary. My best advice is to find someone else in the home, maybe a friend that you can share your Latin interest with, but someone else who can quiz you and show you those flashcards and hold them up and let you know if you're right or wrong. If there's no one available, you certainly can do it on your own. Day 4, you're going to be going through your chapter and learning some grammar concepts that we will cover in our course, in our class, but you'll be doing a more in-depth reading about the Latin grammar. And you know that when you understand English grammar, it helps you in Latin. When you study Latin grammar, it's really going to help you a lot in English. They're very complementary to each other. Then remember to do your chanting when you're learning nouns, which are grouped in different families. When you're learning verbs in Latin that are grouped into different families, you're going to see a pattern. The pattern is that there are similar endings, right? The families are made by the fact that the nouns in this family have the same endings. The nouns in this family have the same endings. The nouns in this family have the same endings, and it's the same for verbs. There are a variety of Latin verbs that are grouped by their endings. And so you don't need to really know every single word in Latin, its translation, its conjugation, and the declensions. But if you know which family that it belongs to, you'll know how to add those endings. And in Latin, we call it an inflected language because those endings change, okay? And I'll give you, in a moment, I'll give you some examples of that from your first chapter. Finally, on day 5, you should be ready after having done the grammar study, practiced your vocabulary flashcards with verbs and nouns and sometimes adjectives and other parts of speech. You will have done a worksheet that's a couple of pages long, and that worksheet provides you the opportunity to measure whether you know the material or not before you take the quiz. There's a quiz at the end of every chapter, and that quiz is really important for you because that tells you, I know my material or I don't know my material. But before you even take the quiz, which usually is 2 pages, you're going to do the worksheet, which is preparing you for the quiz. I do like to ask you, by the time you get to the end of the chapter and day 5 and take that quiz, that you would do like a closed book quiz. Well, your book's going to be open because that's where the quiz is. But we have just a student honor system that when you're doing the quiz, don't flip back to the beginning pages of the book. You should know the answers by that point. And if you're not ready to take the quiz by day 5, that means you need to study a little bit more, and that's okay. We're going to go at your pace, a pace that is comfortable so you can enjoy the study of Latin. Now, as we go along this year, we're going to hear some pronunciations of words. And although Latin is the mother tongue for English, French, Spanish, Portuguese, and Romanian, and those words in those conversational Romance languages sound a lot like Latin, some of the pronunciation is different. And the best way that we can learn the proper pronunciation, which will be the ecclesial pronunciation is what you'll be learning this year, is by practice. So we'll get better and better at practicing the differences in the way the letter C sounds. In Latin, CI says ch, and CE says ch, and in Spanish it says s. So in English, the C is soft sometimes, but there are some rules in Latin that you will begin to understand as we go along. All right, I'm going to share my board with you. Today, I'm going to share my classroom board. And what we'll do is I will type up a little bit of what you're going to see in chapter 1, okay? So in chapter 1, you're learning verb tense endings, and I'll type that here. Verb tense endings in chapter 1, okay? So we're going to take the word amare. Amare means to love, okay? And when we say I love, we say amo, okay? I love, and that's because that is identifiable as the word I love, because that O at the end of a Latin present tense verb is indicating that the pronoun is I. In Latin, we put the pronoun at the end of the word, all right? Amas means you love, okay? And when you see the letter S at the end of a Latin word, you'll know that's the pronoun you. Again, for he, she, or it, amat, the letter T means he, she, or it loves. Okay, etc., etc., etc. I could go on and on with the other, the plural side of the pronouns, but I'm not going to do that because instead I'm going to present you the chart. So the chart that you'll find on your first page in your book will look something like this. Verb tense endings. Okay, and there are always, and we always want to distinguish what tense we're talking about. So right now we're going to type up present. Imperfect in Latin means in the past, and future for specifically for first and second conjugation is what we're referring to, and we'll get into that in a bit. First and second conjugation is what we're referring to when I do this chart, okay? And always in every tense, you're going to have singular pronouns and plural pronouns, right? I is singular, there's one of me. And then we is one of our plural pronouns. We means I'm in the group, but there are more people with me. So present and imperfect and future. So let's take a look here and see. Well, I had to erase that, didn't I? All right, let's do that again. Verb tense endings. And we've got present. Present, imperfect, and future. Okay. And now we're going to distinguish, like I said, between singular and plural pronouns. So let's make this a little bit wider. Okay, so we have in the present tense the singular endings, and we have the plural endings. Same thing for the imperfect tense, which I told you means the past tense, and then the future. And when we're doing a class live, then we can practice some of these charts and things together. But for today, we're just going to do this. We're going to do this with a Zoom link. So thank you for your attention to that. I'm going to get rid of this part of the board because we don't need it anymore. Okay, so what are the endings that we put onto verbs in Latin when we're using the present tense? Okay, this is a simple thing. The endings we use are, they're actually 6 per tense. All right, and we're going to talk about things in terms of first person, second person, and third person. And that may be something that you've covered in your English class already. If not, then first person is referring to me doing the talking. I am doing the speaking. Okay, I am the first person. Second person means you. Okay, second person means you. So in the sentence, second person, okay, the subject of that sentence is you singular, as though I am speaking to you. Third person means the person being talked about, he, she, or it. Okay, and this is just an introduction. We're going to get a little bit deeper into person in this chapter as we move along. All right. Okay, so we start our chart out like this. We'll squeeze that in if we can. We can't really squeeze that in. So I'm going to do a horizontal line here to separate singular, plural, present, imperfect, and future from the persons. And then I'll draw a vertical line down columns down this way so that we can take a look at, whoops, Didn't mean to do that line. We'll take a look at future last, and we'll do the present tense first. All right, so on your page, you're going to see, when you get your book, you are going to see these letters on the page. There is first person singular. You're going to use the letter O for endings on verbs, and mus for plural endings. And that's for the first person, I, okay? Second person, which is you, singular, the ending is S in the singular, and it is tis in the plural. And this isn't going to exactly make sense to you yet, but we'll work on this as we move through the year. Third person, he, she, or it, when you're using a verb, you'll put a T on the end of the verb and an int on the end of the verb if it's plural. And of course, the plural is, let me type that here. First person singular is going to mean I do something. Second person is you do something. And third person singular means he, she, or it does something, right? But those change for the plural when they're plural in number. Okay, and then suddenly that becomes the pronoun we, or in the second person, plural becomes, they say down south, y'all, or you all. And then third person would become they. Okay, so those endings, OST, must, tis, unt, you're going to be chanting those this year and memorizing those endings for all of your present tense verb endings. All right, when we begin to learn the imperfect tense, do you remember what I said the imperfect tense means? Oh, let's finish our line here. Okay, the imperfect tense means past. It's another way in English for saying the past tense. Okay, so I'm going to put that in parentheses here so you know that it's past tense. All right, there are different endings when we are referring to a Latin noun in the past tense. We're going to add these on: bom, bos, and bot. And you won't understand what that makes sense. It won't make any sense right now, but we'll be utilizing those endings when we conjugate, and it will make sense in short order. Batis and bont. Bom, bos, bot, bomus, batis, bont are the endings for imperfect verbs. And then finally, we have our future tense. Future tense has its own endings. They're very recognizable by bo, bis, bit, bimus, bimus, bitis, and bunt. Okay, and as you can see, there's a little bit of a pattern with the imperfect. The BA is your pattern. Excuse me, and you're seeing an ending M, but other than that M, you're seeing another pattern of S in the singular, you, singular, and you're seeing an S in the present tense, and you're seeing an S in the past tense. You're seeing the letter T in the singular form for the present, and you're also seeing a T in the third person singular for imperfect. There's a mus in the present tense and a mus in the past tense. There's a tis in the present tense, and there's a tis in the past tense. There's an nt sound and letters in the imperfect tense as well as in the present. The difference is that you're adding the letters BA. You're adding BA on before you add the personal endings MST, mustis, int. Finally, in the future, you have singular, and plural future endings, and you're going to see bo, bis, bit, bimus, bitis, bunt. And again, there's a pattern, and that's what I was mentioning earlier today, that you don't need to memorize every word and every noun and every verb. What you need to memorize are these patterns. Bo, bis, bit, bimus, bitis, bunt. You see again, there's an O there's an S, there's a T, there's a mus, tis and unt, just like in the other words, but instead of a BO or a BA rather, you see a BO or a BI in the tense marker and in the personal ending. So the personal endings, OST, mus, tis, int, in the present tense help you a lot with the imperfect and future endings. And then the words that you're going to be learning in your first chapter are expecto, which means I expect, okay, I expect. And that O ending tells you that the pronoun I is in that word. Orno means I equip. Some of these words are going to be verbs, and then some of them are going to be some masculine, they're all masculine endings for adjectives, okay? Orno, to equip, or I equip. Orro means I pray. Probo, what does that mean? I approve. The next word is puto. Puto means to think. And now we have some of our adjectives. Mortuus, depending on whether it's masculine, feminine, or neuter, is going to mean dead. Posterus, and these are modifying nouns, which are either feminine, masculine, or Latin also has a neuter noun. And that means next. Postremus, means last. And then vivus, means living. All right. And so if you'd like to take the time now to this week to write those out on flashcards, expecto on one side, I expect, oops, I have a typo here. Let me correct this. You can go through that list and begin to build your flashcards. Begin to build your starter flashcards for the first chapter, okay? And do the same for the adjectives. And there's some review vocabulary which you would not have had because that would have been in a previous book. So I'm going to share that with you as well. And I would like you to do cards, flashcards as well for aqua, which is water, fabula. And what you're seeing here is the word and then the ending. If you were to make the word into the second form of the word, you would see that in a dictionary. So aqua, aquae, fabula, fabulae. Those are the first two forms of that Latin noun that you would see in a dictionary entry. Porta, porte is door or gate. And silva, silvae, which means forest. Finally, terra, terre, which means earth. Okay, and those are review words from last year's book, but you get to practice these too. So that would be a good start. I've given you a little bit of an understanding that in Latin, you're going to see verbs in this book conjugated, and then you're going to see nouns in this book declined. And it's a lot about the endings in Latin. Okay, and I'm going to give you an example just in case you probably do need an example because I've just shared a lot with you. And this is a new concept. It's our first chapter. So let me share some examples of what I mean. So let's take the word filius. Filius means son. And filius is, actually, let's take a feminine word because you're going to learn in chapter 1, you're going to see some words that are feminine, like aqua. We just said the word aqua. Okay, and aqua is an assigned gender. It's feminine. You wouldn't necessarily think of water as a feminine thing. So it's one of those things we call assigned gender, as opposed to something like femina, which means woman, which has a natural gender of being feminine, right? But aqua happens to be a feminine Latin word, and it ends in the letter A, which gives you a big clue, right? So that's the first form of the word aqua, but aqua has more than one ending. You would see it written as aqua this way if it was the subject in the sentence, right? Aqua est bona. Water is good, right? So we're going to make bona, which is modifying aqua. We're going to give that a feminine ending, just as aqua has a feminine ending. All right, and there's an example of what I'm talking about when I say that the endings will change based on what the job of the word is in the sentence. In this sentence, my subject is water. My verb is est. Okay, and now you have a predicate adjective, which is referring back to the word water. Okay, but aqua may not always be the subject in the sentence. It may be the direct object. If it's the direct object in the sentence, we're going to change aqua to aquam. Okay, a, arum, is, as, is. Those are the endings for first declension feminine nouns, but I'm getting way ahead. I'm just letting you know that the endings will change based on what the word is doing in the sentence, okay? Let's take a look at the verbs now. Verbs will change as well. And I gave you one example already of amare, which means to love. And if it's I love, it will be amo. If it's you love, it will be amas. If it's he, she, or it loves, it will be amat. And do you see how those endings are changing? Those endings are the pronouns. We could also say, for emphasis, ego, amo. I am the one who loves. But normally you will not see that in a Latin sentence. That ego, which means I, is to emphasize that it's me doing the loving and not, for example, you. But we don't normally write the word ego in our Latin sentences. It's just understood by this little letter O. Okay. In addition to, I'm going to share my screen again. In addition to the grammar pages, you're going to get to read through with some full color illustrations, the story called Seeking Domum. Seeking Domum is a story about Julia and Marcus, and it's called a diglot. It has English words and Latin words interwoven into each other. So you're going to be introduced to Latin words in a gentle way. You won't be bombarded with big Latin translations. And as you read through the text, you'll see some words like celum and navis, which may be new words for you because you haven't done primer A, but that's okay. We can use our Latin dictionary and look up those words. In addition, you're going to have a review of something that I just shared with you, which is person, first, second, and third person. And so you should remember that first person is the speaker in the sentence, second person is the subject who the speaker is speaking to, and third person is the subject is neither the speaker nor the listener, but a third party, they. are going for a swim in the lake. Not me, not you to whom I'm speaking, but they are going for a swim in the lake. That's something that's probably in your English book. If you've studied some English grammar, you know about first, second, and third person already. And then finally, you'll see a decoding worksheet, and you will see an activity worksheet. And your dad suggested that I send a few of these sheets to you so that you can go through them and do the work. And I am not going to be able to do that tonight because I have some other obligations. But if you'd like to do more in Latin than just watching this Zoom link, will you please email me and I will give you more pages. If you think you're ready for it, I will do that for you, but it won't be tonight. It will be a little bit later in the week. So that's it for now. I appreciate you listening to this link, and we can pick it up from here once you get your book in, of course. And if you'd like to do some work in this book prior to the time that the book arrives, let me know. You would not be doing more than the first chapter. So that's an introduction to Latin, beginning Latin 4. I do hope that it's as far as I've assessed you, I do hope that it's the best fit for you. And if it is not the best fit for you, we can talk about options from there. So for now, vale, goodbye, and we'll see you soon.